this whole thing feels like a kind of exercise in like Buddhist torture, where basically you're super excited and nervous to do something, and then you just sit there for half an hour waiting for it to begin while everyone stares at you. For any of you who have done meditation instruction in the Buddhist tradition, that's exactly what it feels like. You enter a room to get good advice on your life and your meditation practice, and they just stare at you with a gentle smile and don't say anything. It's terrifying. I wrote this book. I guess you know that since you're here. Either that or you find yourself here on the wrong night, and you're in for something like a treat or something intolerable. That you'll be the judge. So I think, if we could all take a big kind of geological or glacial or epic step back, something really amazing is happening. I think we know that with the Me Too movement right now, but even before that and around that, anyone here a fan of Mad Men? I know I was. The relationships depicted in that is what our grandparents or parents lived through, and there was a real sort of gender dynamic and fixed kind of relationship that I don't think was entirely satisfying or honored either partner. And now we're in this crazy, messy time where we kind of broke up something that was relatively fixed. And it's a very creative, very messy, very upsetting, very exciting time for relationships. So this, I wrote this back when I was a kid, when I was 39, and I was looking forward to growing up, which still hasn't occurred 2 years later. And I was thinking, what kind of relationship could I possibly commit to? The sequel will be, what kind of woman would possibly put up with this? It won't sell quite as well. But, so I was thinking, what kind of relation? Because I take commitment seriously. I think all of us do. And yet divorce is rampant, right? And divorce isn't always bad. Divorce is often a breath of fresh air out of something that wasn't working. So I'm not here to bash getting out of that hellish situation I was in for way too long. But what kind of marriage vow could I possibly take to what kind of person and mean it and actually stick through it, even when I can't stand myself and I can't stand them and I don't know which end is up, and like the boxes that say fragile, this end up, and you're upside down, you're broken, you're in pieces. What the hell's going on? Who would I want to do that with? So basically, as I write about in here, and I could read those excerpts, but then I would have to find them. Lindsay tabulated everything in a very organized way, but that doesn't do any good because I'm not a type A person, so it's just a bunch of colors to me. But it talks about how leading up to being 40, and saying, well, at some point I want to have kids, I want to settle down. I took that opportunity to reflect on just about every relationship, short or long, or serious or fun or whatever, or serious and fun, and door number 3, that I'd been through, and then I tried to hold that up against or to the Buddhist teachings that I had been lucky to grow up with. And the Buddhist teachings are really cool, by the way. I don't know if you're into that Buddhist stuff, but they're kind of progressive. They talk about not trying to fuse into one being, which sounds nice when you're making a vow. But does anyone here want to completely subsume who you are in another person and vice versa, and pick out the exact same picture for every wall and agree on where it's going to go and go through extended, demonstrations of PDA, in Grand Central Station? That's fun for like a week or two, but at some point you want to go out with your own friends, or you want to have your own weird hobby, and they don't have to do everything. It's great if they do, but there's some room for independence in the Buddhist notion. The Buddhist notion is not that you're facing each other and you're absorbed into each other, that you're on a lifelong picnic with each other. Picnics are awesome, but if you had to be on a picnic, even with your loved one for your entire life, you might be like, you know what? Picnics are great, but I am sick of cheese, or I just want to go help the world, or I want to go play basketball, or There's other things you want to do than the perfect picnic. So there's some notion of being independent and walking down the path together, and you hold hands as you do so, and you actually become each other's best friends and help each other. Chogyam Trungpa, my parents' Buddhist teacher, would say that your loved one, your spouse, is the messenger for the phenomenal world. What that means is that they're the only person who's going to put up with your shit and actually tell you the truth. And that doesn't have to be a negative thing. That can be a positive thing. They're the only person who's in it to win it with you, right? Because, you know, I might be dating Ryan Van Duzer, lucky me. He looks so great. He's doing videos, he's traveling around. But after a month or two, it's hell to be with Ryan, unless I'm really in it. And then, you know, we deliver the truth to each other in a loving way. Has anyone here ever had someone give you kind of brutal truth, but in a loving, constructive way? And you're like, wow, that was amazing. I wish someone had told me I had, you know, karmic spaghetti on my face for the last 43 years, or however old you are, or however young you are, I should say. So that I find very inspiring. A relationship with built-in room for loneliness. We don't try to get rid of loneliness in the Buddhist tradition. The other day, I made the mistake of reading all the Goodreads reviews of my book, which are very good overall. Tons of stars, super flattering, but human nature being what it is, you immediately gravitate toward the like 8 really awful ones, and there are, so it's like Yelp. And, you know, and a lot of them are like, I thought I was going to love this, but it's super awkward and vulnerable, and like, can't this guy just man up? And I just want to say to those reviewers, because when are we going to stop telling men to man up? I grew up with the coolest mom ever. She supported me in being who I was, but I'm still super awkward and vulnerable being awkward and vulnerable. I hate being awkward and vulnerable. So I kind of hate reading this from this book. So you're going to see me do something I really don't enjoy tonight. That's what I'm talking about. But hopefully we can all get more comfortable with that. And I know I'm blessed to know a lot of good men, and some of whom are here tonight, who are incredibly comfortable with their big, raw hearts, being kind and empathetic and heartbroken. And Chogyam Trungpa again said the ideal human emotion was being heartbroken every moment of your life. Your heart was literally exposed so it could feel the slightest breeze. You know, when you're super heartbroken and all you want to do is not feel that, that's how you would feel for the rest of your life, but with a genuine smile of appreciation. So, you know, what do you get when you get sunshine and you get rain? Anyone? Rainbow. And rainbows are awesome. So, oh, children are here. Glad I didn't totally swear. Sorry. I think I did, actually. But we will not be reading chapter 2. When I publish this, there are some sexy scenes that are not, you know, depends what kind of parent you are, but my mom could give a hoot if I knew about sex. She was a single mom, so she would take me to like French movies where they're like having sex and stuff, and I'd be like 6 years old being like, huh, cool, all right. She had no problem with it, really. Anyway. So I picked out 3 chapters. I am doing a reading every morning of February 1st through February 14th, which was Lindsay Block's idea. She's womaning the comments from LA right now, and she was the editor of this book. So any parts that you like in this book were thanks to, well, mostly me, but thanks to her. I'm kidding. Thanks to her. And the parts that you didn't like, you know, clearly she wasn't doing her job fully. So thank you, Lindsay. But it was her idea for me to read every morning of the first, you know, until Valentine's Day. And that's been alternately super fun. And I haven't read my book in 2 years because we edited it so many times. Is any of you are writers here? Writing about love is kind of hard because you tend toward cliche. So editing that out was a lot of work. Did I forget to turn this on? Oh, no, I didn't. Wow. First time in my life I've done something mindful, ironically. So I have 3 chapters picked out, 4, 6, and 8 that I've read in the last few days. And I just thought people could pick which one I would read by just saying 4, 6, or 8. Any votes? I hear a couple 6s.
4.
Most people are saying nothing. By that, am I to gather that you don't want to hear anything? 4. I'm not reading 2, right? Mom! Okay, so I'm going to read 4. I heard a lot of 4s. So right before I came here, I was trying to relax by having a little hot tub and reading The New Yorker, which is what I do regularly. And the last line or 2 of this review of a movie speaks to what this book is about. So I just thought I'd read that. When at last she receives, it's going to be a good reading tonight. When at last she receives a proposal of marriage, she blushes with perplexity, not joy. And the frown that furrows her brow tells of a deep satisfaction with the romantic norms. Who wants a happy ending when you can try a fresh start? So I thought that spoke to the tension in marriage, our generation's view of marriage. All right. So there's illustrations in here. Some of them are really good. Some of them are not so good. Okay. Chapter 4. Things I would like to do with you in time. Quote, we lead our lives like water flowing down a hill, going more or less in one direction until we splash into something that forces us to find a new course. Arthur Golden. You are out there and I am out here, and this is not the time. But the time may come to pass. That is how time works. The only question that matters now, then, is whether our hearts have connected and can learn to breathe together. If you had a spare hour, I would not want to see you. I would want you to take a break from your path and do something lovely for yourself. A massage or a swim or fun with friends, whatever you have not done for yourself that you are thirsty for. Maitri. Space is love, and I give that which cannot be given to, but can only be taken from you. And you need it. As you have said, it provides ground for good things to come. If you had a day, I would fly anywhere in the country to see you, if only for an hour, and we could drink warm, hot brown coffee and go for a walk. And I would like to cry at the thought of seeing you and holding your hand, sitting on a bench, looking into the street together, seeing your profile from the other side. Sighs are healthy, for they mix watery emotion with space and humor. If you had a week, I would like to meet you somewhere, on your road or in my hometown. We could dinner and go to a show and to a bar and play pool and laugh at each other and drink local beer and stay separately or together. I would rent something where we could climb to the roof. We could bicycle and go to a used bookstore, and we could cuddle and read out loud if that is not too much. If that is too much, we could just walk in the park. If that is still too much, we could just go to a party and be loud and fun and barely make eye contact, but warm one another in each other's fires. If that is too much, we could just be naked and sweat and learn one another's bodies and movements, like 2 new surfers learning to respect the water. If that is too much, we can forget one another mostly as we have our other lovers. If you had 2 weeks, we could go on a little break together to a romantic retreat. Big sky or ocean cliffs or pink desert with nothing but space, big skies, warm waters, nothing to do but be. If you had 3 weeks, however, we should go to blue islands. White walls, white sky, white sea, blue skies, your eyes, your hair, your bikini, my shorts, 4 tanned and sandy bare feet. What are the colors there? Blue, bright blue, pale blue, blue-green, gray blue, bright pink flowers and sun, light pink and white tablecloth, white, white, white. I want to spend some time on the sea and in the islands. A painted lacquered wooden boat, your red dress. Impossibly blue sky and water. See-through white curtains in a hot breeze. But if you had 4 weeks and you were ready, which you are not, we should just be simple together in my hometown and live life and not do anything but hike and drink coffee and work and laugh with my dog and eat good food with many good friends or alone and run together up along the creek into the mountains. We could text and make appointments with one another. What are you doing later? And see each other when convenient, like adults, like normal life, and see. And that would be the best, to live everyday life with you. For I do not know you, and though I seem dreamy and open, just beneath that layer I am waiting, my hope balanced with prajna. 3 layers down, I am rational. This is where my hesitation and patience rest. But I am not afraid of exploring and finding out what lies over the edge of the flat earth, for it is not flat. I am not afraid of anything. I am not afraid of anything but filling your space. You need and deserve that, and I would not like to be a part of anything other than love in your life. And as you and I both know, in our bones, in our blood, in our mind stream, in our calm moments, love is made up of space just as the earth is made up of water. And my love includes laughter. The wood fire requires wood and oxygen both, and I love to cut wood. Please. No, thank you. It's fun. That actually was fun. So, thank you. If there's any comments or questions, or I can read more if we're super bored, or we can go drink it upstairs at the kitchen. That's your menu. And if there's comments from the people, I'm happy to take them too. Any comments or questions or frustrations? Yeah.
Very sexually frustrating.
Yeah.
Can you read that?
Sure. Damn it. All right, 6 or 8?
6.
All right, in order, kind of. 5 is awful.
I have a question. What's your favorite chapter?
What's that? Oh, sorry. Can I read more? Was one question, and I said yes. And the next question was, what's my favorite chapter? I think what I was trying to do in this book that matters, I like to say my T's, which I'm very conscious of right now, weirdly, is convey some, I like to say this book is not written from the point of view of authority. It's written from the point of view of experience. And I was trying to hold the Buddhist teachings up against that, like holding something up against a fire and you warm your backside or whatever. So I think the most important chapter is something about, I would like to hear from you when you are confused. Because I think often we have a great time when things are great, and then we clam up and we project on others and we get weird and we start acting out of our own weird, like, this is how I'm going to negotiate with myself around my own thoughts, around the situation, around that person who did that weird thing, which I didn't understand, instead of just communicating with them, because we're so afraid of popping the happily ever after balloon. We're going for, like, anyone play pool, our goal is to run the table for like 60 years and never make a mistake, ever. And everything will look like one of those movies with Meryl Streep and whoever. I just watched one with Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin. Actually, they weren't showing a perfect life, but their lives were still kind of perfect. So I think that's the most important chapter, but it's not the most fun, so it's not on the menu. But I can, whatever. Oh no, that is the one. Chapter 6. Wow. My favorite fun chapter is chapter 1, which I wrote after an amazing date at your house. And I just came home. I just wrote a blog titled Things I Would Like to Do With You in the Woods. I put it up on Elephant, and the internet is always super positive and reassuring. It was the first time I'd ever written anything and published it, and where every single comment was like, yes, like, loved it. People went crazy, not just like my friends. And I was like, whoa, what is this? This had nothing to do with me. There was some kind of longing out there for whatever that first chapter touched on. Okay, so this one's kind of serious and heavy and all that. Things I would like to hear from you when you are afraid. Any confusion, Things I would like to hear from you when you are afraid. This begins with a quote as well by Chögyam Trungpa. Any confusion you experience has within it the essence of wisdom automatically. So as soon as you detect confusion, it is the beginning of some kind of message. At least you are able to see your confusion, which is very hard. Ordinarily, people do not see their confusion at all. So by recognizing your confusion, you are already at quite an advanced level. So you shouldn't feel bad about that. You should feel good about it. You should not be terrified of your confusion, but you should look into it further. You should push into it instead of closing yourself off. In that way, you just keep opening and unfolding like flowers in the summertime. Even though they're exposed to the weather, to the wind and rain, flowers keep unfolding themselves until finally they bloom at their best. You could be like the flowers. You could let the bees sit on you and take your honey away, and that would be fine. Chugim Trungpa. So there's a little illustration with the word open. I would like to communicate with you about difficult things. Love can survive fear only if acknowledged. Things are not easy always. A love affair is not imagination. It is the vicissitudes of daily life. It is two life streams intermingling. It is heavy silence with nothing to say. It is inadvertently making big deals about small nothings. I would like to hear you give voice in the hard times. Then I can know this is a river of true love and not merely a shallow standing pool. Love is not fantasy. It is bricks and mortar. Relationship is earth. Love is fantasy, too. It is heaven, dreams and hormones and the pleasure in biology and sudden laughter. It is the rub between the two that creates sparks, earth striking against heaven. It is communication that is water that cools those sparks and gets us through the fear of loss, the difficult times, the simple arguments over dishes, or the serious arguments over ethics. Another quote by Rilke. What is required of us is that we love the difficult and learn to deal with it. In the difficult, we are the friendly forces, the hands that work on us. Right in the difficult, we must have our joys, our happiness, our dreams. There, against the depth of this background, they stand out. There, for the first time, we see how beautiful they are. Rainier Maria Rilke. We have connected. I would like to love you, if that is how it is. I would like to honor this connection with mutual openness. Or I would like to lose you, if that is how it is. I would not like to dishonor our connection with a lack of communication about the confusing things. Connection is a rare spark, a cause for joy. I would not like to lose said spark because of your inability to communicate about your fear. I learned when young that if confused, I should be open about it and it will get better. And yet sometimes I forget this lesson. I collapse into insecurity, and if unopened, it can become depression. When I cannot be charming, when I cannot be who you or others think I am embarrassed. It is our task to talk when we would hide. We can talk confusion. We do not have to wait for clarity. I would like to honor our fear by tending to it. When gripped by confusion, do not shut down, rather talk it out. It is a clumsy, simple tactic that works every time. By giving voice to that which I do not understand, my confusion gains sanity instead of calcifying into fear, fear of fear. If you are afraid, come here and I will hold you. Or go away, go for a walk and hold yourself sweetly. I would like to never resent your fear, if communicated. Rather, I would like to admire you for acknowledging your hesitation. There are reasons for it that I cannot yet know, and I would like to care if you will let me see. I would like to care more about you than about my feelings for you. Quote, whatever occurs in the confused mind is regarded as workable. It is a fearless proclamation, the lion's roar. Chugim Trungpa. Oh, I would not like this to be wonderful only to see it collapse, only because of broken communication. If we are not right for one another, or the timing is not right, or we cannot make it right, that is that. Love is the hardest sport. Love is only available to those willing to be continually brave in weakness. Can you be brave? Say we have one wonderful night. Say we bicycle far off together to a wedding dinner with many ladies and gentlemen outside on a green farm. And say we laugh and dine at a white table amongst many white tables set beneath the gathering stars of a night that fast turns the green farm dark blue. And say you are elegant, and I will undress your elegance. But first, in the candlelight, we talk with mentors and parents of friends, and then dance, silly, enthusiastic, confident. The mosquitoes come out hungry, we kiss and hold and talk and laugh, lying in the grass beneath the cool bushes, lining the dark periphery of the bright tent. It is an honor to know you. But then say the next day you cancel our plans for our first dinner date without telling me. Thoughtfulness is a basic courtesy we extend to friends. And then say we gather that night with friends, and you are with a gentleman, and you sit over there, and it is all an affront, served cold. I do not revel in heated jealousy, and I will soon be coolly fine with this loss of our warmth of the night before. Perhaps you slept badly, and you are just out of a long, uneven relationship, and you are not ready to unfold your wings. I do not know and cannot, since you do not tell me. Quote, to conceal anything from those to whom I am attached is not in my nature. I can never close my lips where I have opened my heart. Charles Dickens. And so I would like to fold my wings closed against your heart. Such cowardliness is for children, though children have an excuse. I would like to breathe out into the rain and lightning night as I bicycle away from you. I've made friends with myself, so I do not often fear loneliness. I am fine with disrespect, for my capacity to cease to care is contextualized by my good friend's repeated advice over the years. Where is he? There he is. If she does not communicate, forget her. You deserve better. Say, I would like to forget you. Quote, happiness is not a goal. It's a byproduct of a life well lived. Eleanor Roosevelt. I would like to love fully. I would like to love my life and help you to love yours. Love is not selfish love, but rather caring for another, which means we help to nurture our fundamental kindness. That day may be far off, but I do not think it is, for I want to name 12 noble children, foolish things like Margaret, Daisy, and Huckleberry, and Winslow, and Whitman, and Washington, and Kerouac, Carey for short, and Roosevelt, Rose, and Thoreau, and Sargent, and I would like to love someone who would like to communicate. I would not like to, say, call or text or email or message you and not hear back. I would not like to play games. I would not like to ask you out and never be asked out. I would not like to treat and never be treated. I would like us to not play games, but rather I would like for us to be simply honest. Quote, becoming awake involves seeing our confusion more clearly. Chögyam Trungpa. Love is not one way. That is for boyish madmen and bored housewives, and I admire neither. If you are busy, take your time. Space is yours, and I will not take it from you, and space is mine, and I will not give it up for you. But if you play games with the communication like old climbing rope, my affection for you will fray. Loneliness is the solve for love lost, and this antidote comes conveniently after misuse. I would not like to date a girl. Quote, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Anais Nin. I would like to love and be loved by a deeply sane human, brave enough to surf fear and voice it messily. I am ready for love. I have seen many shadows of it, shadows so weak they cannot block the sun of your hot heart. And I would like to know that, so far, I am so grateful. I am tired, wet from the salt spray. I have stood by the shore all day and all my adulthood, day after day and some nights. But now I am ready to kiss the heart of a woman brave enough to feel fear and give voice to it. In voicing our fears, we introduce oxygen, and in so doing, give our fires life. And yet I shall fondly look back at those times of loneliness at the water, the rock of the deep ocean, the creak of the wood that buoys me, the feeling of my tired hands shaking against the oars as I pull again against strong waves. I do not want my idea of you. That is too easy, and it is not real. I want you, faults and all. And I want you to want me, faults and all, not any ideas you have about love. So, what are we doing here? So, yeah, it's sort of simple. You just communicate when you don't want to. That's the whole thing. Any comments or questions? Yeah. Usually I get that question on the third date, but yeah. What's that? Oh, how many relationships have I been in? 4 or 5. Yeah. Just kidding. Do you mean by relationships like long term, or just like getting crazy? Long term, yeah. Serious relationships. There's been, I think, 2 or 3. I would say 2. And sorry, X. And then, I had a habit, not that this is interesting to anyone, other than whoever wants to yell at me about my weird habitual patterns, with relationships, but I had a lot of relationships that were really good and really healthy and really stable. And then at 8 months, there was this sort of mutual moment where we would be like, this is really good. We're good friends, but, you know, like that old movie, the something itch, the 7-year itch. I would have the 8-month itch, which sounds like a STD, but that's another book. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a little moment in the beginning where I say, if I can find it quickly, it might be a better answer than that. I don't think I can find it quickly. But it talks about the notion of, like, for all of you, that it's powerful to look at your past relationships and kind of really contemplate them and learn from them what you can, and kind of bow to them as if they're a procession of memories walking past you, and they're all silent, almost like ghosts. And you bow to them, and you really, good or bad, happy or sad, or a lot of both, you learn from that, and then you can move forward. So that was sort of the notion. Hey.
Which chapter was most challenging or scary for you to write, and how did you do that?
Which chapter was scariest or something to write, most personal?
Yeah, like if you're gonna have to reveal it, right? You're gonna publish the book, and people are gonna read that.
Yeah.
Like that whole concept of vulnerability.
Right.
Pushing yourself, right?
Honestly, I was very comfortable. I'm a different person when I write than when I walk around town. So my writerly self was very comfortable with vulnerability and being honest, and it's so cathartic for anyone who writes or sings or whatever your thing is. Like, it feels so good to speak the truth and kind of write truth. I think the hardest chapters by far were not about the content, but it was, you know, sometimes you write and it's like perfect and it comes out and you barely have to edit it and it just feels natural. Natural is a better word than perfect. And you're kind of done. And you're like, wow, you're like, wow, I wrote that. Like, that was better than who I am. And then other chapters come out and it's like awful. Like, the content is good. They have a good message, but it's just all cliche and clumsy, and you edit it for 8,000 hours. And so I wouldn't have finished this book without Lindsay Block, who edited. A lot of people edited various parts, but she kind of took over and locked it down, and I would have given up 8,000 times. Editing was far harder than writing, because you have this feeling of you're putting something out there, and if it's not just a exercise in selfishness, if there's some point to it, some mission, some message, you don't want to F it up forever and mess people up, you know? So you kind of want to get it right, you know? Hi.
How do you think growing up with just a single mom has kind of shaped your view on relationships and maybe in relationships with?
How has growing up with a single mom shaped my relationships?
Yeah, like your view on relationships that you're in.
My view of relationships, what?
The relationships that you, like your partners, like how does that, your view on like the partner you look for?
Right. So how has it shaped who I date or my relationship?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
He has a great accent. I keep getting distracted by your accent. Yeah. And you're a guy. Imagine me on a first date with a woman who I'm attracted to. I hear nothing. It's just like TV static. I see when the bill arrives and I like panic. Oh, the whole thing happened. My mom had a really rough relationship. She had really amazing relationships, actually, very adventurous. She lost a lot of her family by the age of 16, and she worked 2 jobs, put herself through college, had a consensual affair with her Tweety professor back when that was kind of 70s and cool, or whenever that was, 60s. And then she like jumped on a white horse and an elephant and ran off with a circus manager, literally. And she was like kind of wild and amazing, and discovered the whole Buddhist thing. And she was just fearless, but also super, anyone who knows my mom, she's like so sweet and meek and kind of not bold or anything. She's a weird combination of like fearless and sweet. And then, with apologies to my father, who may be watching, she had one awful relationship, which was with my father. They actually got married up in that room, and this was the original Buddhist shrine room. There's still some Buddhist stuff around. And they're both awesome, and everything's great. But there's a lot of rough relationships out there, and it was awful. So I think she just brought me up to, I never was brought up to, I wasn't brought up around my dad too much. And she was kind of, she was a feminist and humanist, and was just brought me up to be respectful and to be, I don't know. She was awesome. It's an awful answer. Sorry. I do remember I had a huge crush on Corey Cohn, if anyone knows Corey, when I was like in second grade, I think. Like huge crush. She was so beautiful. Second grade crush. And I like was totally chicken, and I wasn't cool enough to call her. Like I wasn't really on her level socially. I was like straight A's, and I would yell at the teacher if I got an A- at the time. So wasn't super cool, but my mom was like, just call, like the worst that can happen is no. And that's where you are right now. So just call. So I called her and I asked her out, and she said yes, which is a cool story until she called back 2 days later and said, Yeah. She was like, actually, so anyway. Corey. No, I'm kidding. We're good friends. Yeah.
So it's been a couple years since you
Yeah.
wrote this book. If you were writing it today, what chapter would you add? What would the title of that chapter be? What would the topic be if you're writing it today?
What chapter would I add if I wrote the book today? It's been a couple years. After the publication of this book, there were about 5 more chapters that happened kind of organically, because I serialized the book on elephants, so it was just sort of a huge organic process. And so they just kind of kept coming, and it was kind of fun. And so there's like things I would like to do with you in New York, and things I would like to do with you, blah, 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 in Vermont or something. And those are in the ebook, actually. But they were more just specific. This book, if you've read it, goes back and forth from sort of poetic or philosophical to kind of actual relationships or dates or specific stories. So all the subsequent ones were more specific stories that I just wanted to remember, like a long weekend in New York City when I was falling in love with someone. And I have an awful memory, so it was partially just selfish to want to put it down on paper and remember it. I don't know what I would want to add. I don't think I'd want to add anything. I'm frankly sick of this book. I'd like to move on. No, I don't know. I think I would probably add even more about loneliness, because I feel like elephant readers, whenever I talk about the Buddhist view of loneliness, our elephant readers, even elephant readers, are like, oh no, you mean aloneness. Aloneness is okay. You have your avocado toast, and everything's Instagrammable, and you look really cool in your hammock and in Bali, and you're so alone, and you're selfieing yourself so everyone can share that cool aloneness. No, I mean loneliness. Like, can we actually be okay with the stuff that isn't okay, which is brokenhearted loneliness? And, people are always like, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to, and I'm like, Mom. No, I'm kidding. And is this weird, on the 50% who care, like, of course, you should be able to ask anyone any question. When are you going to settle down? When are you going to do this? It's all great. Because it's an innocent question. When are you going to get your hair cut? When are you going to shave? People can ask stuff. On the other hand, there's this weird cultural expectation that we are going to get married and that we're less. Does anyone here feel like you might be less if you're not in a committed relationship that's on a track to something you can Instagram and say, I'm married, look. That's me trying to do the right thing. So I have no answers to that. I just feel like, I'm always like, I don't know. I'm alone and I'll be alone until I'm not alone, and I'm dating sometimes if I meet someone, and I'm not if I don't. Like, I don't know. That was such a boring answer. Maybe it's the question that was boring. I would probably write more about loneliness. I feel like Americans are not okay with it. You know, Chogyam Trungpa would talk about how entertainment was our great enemy. That you can't sit still. He said the only time Americans ever sit still is when you're in the passenger seat of the car. And this was pre-cell phone, pre-all that stuff, right? So when, you know, there's a French quote too. This isn't just a Buddhist thing. It's like, all wars begin because man, this is an old quote, man cannot sit by himself alone for 45 minutes without, turning on Netflix and Walking Dead. I'd rather watch Walking Dead than feel my hot boredom with myself. And from a Buddhist point of view, hot boredom is like being in a sauna. And if you just relax, then you can relax. You can actually relax, which is really cool. And then you can experience what they call cool boredom. And then you can be yourself instead of a trumped up version of yourself. Yeah. Oh, Facebook question. Go.
From Julie. What
Julie.
methods did you use for writing this book?
What methods did I use in writing this book? Black magic, a lot of expo facto infinitorum. Can't remember my spells. I wrote on a laptop. No, I'm being serious. I wrote on my laptop. A lot of people are like, you have to write with like a Fontainebleau pen on the cliff and selfie it. I wrote on my laptop because it feels like playing the piano. You can write as fast as you can flow. And Kerouac was a huge fan of that. For those of you like Kerouac, he taped together the whole teletype roll so he could just write his mind, as Allen Ginsberg called it, or Trungpa Rinpoche called it first thought, best thought. The idea isn't speed, but that it's just you're just playing your mind like music. And I would write whenever the inspiration hit me. If I didn't go on a good date or a bad date or a date for a couple months, then I didn't write anything unless something came up about an old relation. I just waited. Why am I answering you again? Apparently, you're Mary on Facebook. So yeah, I would just write whenever the inspiration hit me. So I would write 4 chapters in 2 days sometimes, and 1 chapter in 4 months sometimes. Sorry, I'm still trying to stare at you the whole time. Okay. Oh, sorry. Any other comments or questions? Anything critical? If so, the door is over there. All right. Is that it? Anything from Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nicole from Facebook has a comment. My heart hurt deeply and needed chapter 6 tonight. Thank you.
So Nicole from Facebook, totally ruins the moment that I repeat it, said your heart hurt deeply, and thank you for chapter 6. Well, thank you for listening. And, I would just remind you that your heart hurting is awesome, because that's like blues, that's the shakuhachi, if you know the flute. A lot of Americans, not to rag on us, but we're all into positivity. Anyone here a fan of positivity? Out. Positivity is the notion that like emotions that aren't good are bad. And that, you kind of stiff upper lip. The British tried it for thousands of years. Did we learn nothing from them? Suppressing your emotions won't work. So the truly positive thing, I think positivity is misnamed, because you might be positive as a person, and that's beautiful. But positivity is about, if it's a negative thought, that's actually a little embarrassing. You should kind of just move on and smile, and you'll attract good stuff and get rid of that bad stuff. And as a society at large, that extends to, and if you're an elephant employee, I apologize because you're sick of hearing about this, but it's called gateway spirituality by me. I call it that, because you start pushing away the homeless, you push away the elderly, you push away the sick, you push away the mentally ill, you push away anything that isn't pleasant. Cool. On that cheery note, yeah. Okay, one more question.
Where's your favorite place to write?
Where's my favorite place to write? I don't know. There's a lot of ways to answer that. I would say a beautiful old library or a bookstore like this one, like the New York Public Library or Boston Public Library or what was it called? Fairbanks Athenaeum in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. Like beautiful old spaces. I'm a big fan of antique oak and stickly and all that kind of Victorian-y or more craftsman-y stuff. I hate plastic. Let's talk about plastic and zero waste. Switching gears. So I like to write in an inspiring space I love writing in the Trident. I probably wrote half of this in the Trident. I like a little bit of distraction, but not too much. Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy.
Off the purchase of Waylon's book anytime, or tonight only $5 off anything else in the store. His books, once again, are available just outside of ballroom registers. And thank you all so much for coming, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Okay. So then.
Hey,
Are we still on for lunch?
Yes, it's on my it's on my calendar. I think.
12 o'clock in your place?
Let me double check so I don't mess this up.
All right.
Do you have
Then you can.
Oh, I'll drink. Yeah.
Okay,
there.
perfect. I'm just going to make more room for this.
Yep, you're there.
12 o'clock.
I'll see you at my office, right?
I
Hey.
just wanted to tell you that I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario,
Oh,
Canada.
yeah.
I read
Nice.
your Elephant Journal
Oh,
all the
cool.
time.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm visiting
Aw.
my brother here in town.
Oh,
When
what a
I saw you were
coincidence.
here, I thought, I
Wow.
want to see this guy.
Aw.
I find that a lot of the essays that are published are very apropos to what happened in my life.
Oh, good.
I found it all. And,
Oh, good.
I find it-
Oh, come here.
Do you have a writing team, or do you take submissions?
We
or
take
what?
submissions. Yeah, if you'd ever like to write.
I might like to do that.
Hey, Caitlin, can you, what was your name?
Louise.
Louise is wondering how to write.
Oh, yeah.
She's from Ontario. Beth.
And yes,
Hey.
as a matter of fact, today there was something that was incredible in today's.
In Elephant.
Yes.
Which block is it?
The blog
Do we
that
want
was giving-
people to come around, or
which
where's
is what
Laura?
My guy just told me 2 weeks ago.
Anyway, that was cool. I got to talk about my mom with you here. Yeah.
And I'll get back to her about that too.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
it was
She might have
wonderful.
watched. I told her
She
about it.
might, okay.
But probably not. It's 10:30 there. So
I don't know when she was, but anyway. So it was great. And congratulations.
you enjoyed it?
Oh, it was. I love the thing. I never heard that quote. I think from Kerouac. You play your mind, or you.
Oh, yeah. Write your mind.
Write your
That-
mind. I love
Ginsburg
that.
said that.
Ginsburg. I love it. Anyway.
You can hang out. I should probably sign so people don't flake off. But thank you, Beth. Good to see you. Hey. Oh, thank you.
Everything I want.